fellow Trek Chatters, I'm Pit Trekkie, and welcome to another episode of Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. So for today's episode, what I'm going to be doing is reviewing Episode 9 of Season 2 of Star Trek Picard, Hide and Seek. What a very interesting title that is, because the whole episode was nothing but hide and seek. So why don't I go ahead and start giving a basic summary of this episode. So the episode begins on board La Sirena, the Borg Queen / Jurati. I'm just going to refer to her as the Queen pretty much through this episode. But the Queen arrives with her makeshift Borg fleet, appearing on the La Sirena and transporting around all over the Picard vineyard. So Rios gets Teresa and the little boy off the ship. The Borg Queen strips off that red dress that she's been wearing, goes to her original body, and basically assimilates the suit, and it forms on the Borg Queen / Jurati's body. Picard and his crew arrive at the ship, but they get pinned down outside of the house. I don't know if it's exactly where they're at. It looks like almost like a cemetery because it was dark. But they're on the grounds of Chateau Picard. Anyway, so the Borg Queen in Jurati's body, she's trying to take over the ship. But Jurati actually stops her, and she and Jurati actually have a go back and forth inside her mind. So basically what Jurati did is she was able to put a fractal lock on the ship's systems, but she didn't memorize it or keep it for herself. She actually transferred it into a hologram that she created called the Emergency Combat Hologram, which takes the form of Elnor. So basically, apparently, what she said is anybody who comes aboard the ship, the computer kind of puts the person in their memory banks and can create holograms of anybody who's been on the ship, okay? A big thing that this episode is known for is a lot of flashbacks for Picard, back and forth to, once again, his mother and his father and running around the catacombs. So I'm going to sprinkle that in a little bit here with the review. At one point while they're outside, Rios is shot by one of those makeshift Borg drones. Talon transports Rios and Dr. Ramirez and her son back to her apartment so that he can be taken care of. Rios basically says he wants to come back and rejoin the fight, but basically Picard and Talon lock him out and won't let him transport to that site. Then we see a little bit of Sung. He starts talking to Picard and his crew outside. Picard's talking to him about how he knows that there are two different futures that Sung could have. And Picard knows that the Queen is going to use La Sirena to destroy the Europa mission ship so that way it doesn't happen. Sung is telling them that they need to stand down and that if they do that, they can stay alive and they can live whatever life they want to live. And Sung talks about them playing a little bit of hide and seek, which Picard says is pretty neat. This goes back to a flashback where Picard and his mother are going to play a game, and Mother says, "Let's play hide and seek." And they realize that they can hide inside the catacombs underneath the house. Let's see. There was also a secret passage that Picard and his mother were able to take into the catacombs. They turned some little dial on a bookshelf, and the bookshelf moved. They were able to go in, and then it closed. Picard actually takes Talon into the house, into the catacombs, and Talon realizes this seems very, very dark, and this is the place that you were at in your mind, and basically she wants to find out why that area is so dark. And Picard basically just says that his mother would lose herself down in the catacombs. So at this point, 7 of 9 and Raffi are trying to find weapons for them to use when on board La Sirena to help take control of the ship. Raffi realizes that 7 of 9 seems very confident, and she seems like she's a Starfleet captain and should be a Starfleet captain. She asks 7 of 9 why she never joined Starfleet. And 7 of 9 says that she actually tried once Voyager came back to Earth from the Delta Quadrant, but that it was Starfleet who said because of her Borg enhancements that they didn't seem to really trust her. She said that Janeway went to bat for her and even threatened to resign her commission, but that still wasn't enough. So 7 of 9 apparently was disillusioned by that and immediately went and joined the Fenris Rangers. And that kind of explains that whole arc right there. They also start to talk to each other about how they feel they're not going to get out of this battle. They feel that this is a lost cause, but they're still going to fight. Going back to Talon's apartment with Rios and Dr. Ramirez, Rios wants to go back and join the fight. He's trying to work on the transporter, but he's having no luck. So Ramirez uses one of the advanced medical equipment to actually fix Rios' arm with the bullet wound. And she talks about how hard this is for her seeing all these things, and basically she has an ER, an entire ER in the palm of her hands at that moment. This then goes back to the house again with Sung, and Sung and his Borg soldiers actually find the catacombs. I guess, I don't know if it was with the dust or if he saw something had moved, but either way they found it. He did that Brent Spiner chuckle that you usually hear in his characters when he laughs, and then they entered. So we see another flashback for Picard back to Mom sitting down in the catacombs, and you can tell that Mom's starting to have some sort of mental health break or some sort of psychotic break. She talks to Picard about looking up at the stars and seeing how the light we see in the stars is actually from a sun that has long since faded and dimmed. And she basically compares her life to that, how she tries to look like a beacon of light or be happy, but that she's really kind of faded and dimmed. This then goes toward Maurice is trying to find them. He knows that there's probably a problem if they're down in the catacombs. So they run away from Maurice, and Picard actually gets his foot stuck in that wood, and then Mom again takes off. Dad rescues him, and this is when Maurice locked Mother in her room just to keep her safe. She's actually yelling and screaming for Picard to release her, and Picard at this time doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with his mother. He just saying she wants help. She wants my help. I have to help her. Only you can save me. So apparently what happened is he did open the door and let her out. This then skips back to Elnor. Raffi and 7 and 9 are finally able to make it on board La Sirena, and of course, Raffi is surprised to see Elnor because he's dead. She ends up using the moment to apologize to the hologram and saying how she felt bad about keeping Elnor away from going back home to Vashti and making him join the academy. And Elnor said, well, I have his memories and feelings, so I know that the last feeling that he had for you, Raffi, was love, which seemed to really touch her, and that's kind of where that part ended. 7 did clear a path to the transporter, and she actually ended up beaming several of the Borg drones off of the ship, and they actually transported into the catacomb walls, which was kind of weird to see in that area. There was only one Borg left on board the ship at this point, and it was the Queen. So the Queen ends up coming in, and she uses her tendrils, and she ends up deactivating Elnor, and she stabs 7 and 9 in the chest, or I guess the belly area, and she's bleeding out, and she's starting to die. Raffi is encouraging her to save her life at this point. The Queen is able to get primary controls because after 7 and 9 clears the path to the transporter, the Elnor hologram, who had the ability to have the command codes, basically deactivated those and allowed 7 and 9 to have full access to the ship, which was against Raffi's better judgment because then the Queen could get access. So anyway, the Queen ends up getting primary controls, and she wants to set course for the Delta Quadrant so that she can get a 400-year head start on assimilating. And it's also what we learned earlier in the episode was that she wants to get a head start on beating the Confederation if that's the path that ends up going in terms of time. Let's see here. Jurati starts crying when the Borg Queen actually wants to go and kill 7 and 9, but of course it's actually Jurati coming through. And Jurati talks to the Borg Queen in their shared mind and says that those kind of feelings, like the excitement and the dopamine levels that happened for the Queen earlier in the season, helped her to gain control, while Jurati was able to gain control with the sadness and those kind of emotions. Especially the thought of watching, almost killing Raffi. So she feels that the Queen actually should have just been more compassionate, and she probably would have actually won and succeeded in killing 7. This is where Jurati starts to talk about this plan for a possible new Borg collective, where people are assimilated but by choice, and that they're valued for what they are and what they bring. The Queen feels that this is basically collecting scraps and not adding to any perfection, but Girardi feels about the importance of embracing uniqueness of its members. The Queen said she was against it pretty much, but she was also intrigued. And Girardi's talking about how attachments can grow with people and you can work together. So what ends up happening is that Girardi bends down and saves 7 to 9, but in the process, there's a price that had to be paid, and all of 7 to 9's Borg implants reappeared in the same exact spots. So getting past that section, then we go back into what I call the conservatory in Chateau Picard, the whole glass window area. We find out that Picard actually was in bed with his mom, and Mom actually got out of her bedroom and she went to that conservatory area and hanged herself, which he feels obviously a lot of depression for and guilt for over the years. And I'm assuming that means that's the reason why he had a hard time finding love and forming attachments with people, was because he lost his mother at such a young age. So we see that in the funeral scene, he actually throws a rock at the glass, shatters it out of anger. Sung ends up beaming in there with 2 other Borg. He's ready to take out Talon and Picard. But Rios is able to transport himself from Talon's apartment after kissing Dr. Ramirez. He manages to go there. He destroys one of the Borg with one of the Confederation phasers, but he ends up being stopped by Sung. Sung ends up taking the phaser, and we start hearing this loud whine. And what Rios says is that the phasers are tuned into DNA, certain DNA, and if it's not your DNA, it'll overload, which is what happened, and it exploded, and Dr. Sung disappeared. So basically, the episode ended where the Queen is by 7 to 9 and Raffi. The Queen is given La Sirena, and it takes off, and everybody reunites, and they realize that they have to get moving with making sure that Renee is okay. But before that happens, 7 to 9 and Raffi give Picard a message that the Girardi Queen gave to them to tell Picard, that the mission is only going to succeed if there are 2 Renees, one that lives and one that dies. And that's where the episode ends. All right, let me just give some basic thought about this episode. I enjoyed the episode. It was entertaining. It was fun to watch. But at the same time, I was disappointed in the simple fact that it was another filler episode that kind of returned back to the violence that Picard really was known for in Season 1. You know, Elnor stabbing people with the sword, and, earlier in the season, the Confederation phasers were blowing people up. Had a little bit of that going on. A lot of shoot 'em up, people getting hurt, people getting killed. So a lot of that violent stuff was back. Personally, I feel that this episode wasted an episode. The simple fact is, we have 1 episode left for the season, and the Europa mission has not happened yet. Episode 9 should have been where the Europa mission actually happened, that the ship took off and maybe ended on a cliffhanger with La Sirena and the Borg Queen and getting ready to kind of destroy it. Kind of like with the Enterprise E in First Contact, when the Phoenix was launched and the Queen wanted the Enterprise to get near the Phoenix and destroy it to change history. It also reminded me of the last couple of episodes of the Xindi arc in Star Trek Enterprise Season 3. They got on board the Xindi weapon a couple episodes before the season finale, which kind of upped the stakes, and we got to see kind of what happened with them taking the weapon, then preparing to destroy Earth, and then finally approaching Earth. I think that's what they should have done in this episode, so I think this episode was really just kind of a waste of time. Entertaining, but a waste, is how I see it. Some of the things that I did like about it was, I did like learning why 7 and 9 never joined Starfleet. I always kind of wondered why she was never in Starfleet, but Icheb was. So I didn't recognize the part about Icheb joining Starfleet. Somebody else actually brought that up on social media. And it's true. Why would 7 and 9 not be allowed to join Starfleet after Voyager's missions, after everything 7 and 9 did to get the crew home? Why would she be not allowed to join Starfleet, but Icheb was? He was Borg. The only thing that I could really think of is that 7 and 9 was a Borg drone for 18 years and it had assimilated millions of galactic citizens, I guess if you want to call them that, where each had just come out of a maturation chamber on that malfunctioning Borg cube. You know, so maybe because he wasn't fully assimilated and didn't have all that knowledge of the Borg, maybe that was part of the reason why they trusted him, whereas 7 and 9 lived all these years as a Borg, had even used some of her Borg skills to actually go against the crew of Voyager in her earlier years. So that's a possibility. I think it's sad, and I think that's probably a dark cloud that kind of hangs around 7 and 9. It is nice to know, though, that Janeway actually went to bat for her, which I figured she would have anyway. She would have gone to bat for 7 and 9. She would have gone to bat for the Equinox characters, and she would have gone to bat for the Maquis crew members because of everything they had been through all those years. Let's see, that phaser in there that needed the DNA, that was certainly a different touch. I'm wondering if that's just a Confederation of Planets touch for the phasers, or if that's something that the Federation does as well, instead of there being like an overload set. Maybe that's part of it. I don't know. It was just a little throwaway thing, but I thought that was neat. It was nice seeing Elnor back, even though he was in a hologram. But to be honest with you, the hologram situation didn't really make sense to me, and I'll get into that when I talk about the dislikes. It was cool seeing a mobile emitter again. Now, that kind of leads me to the question, how did they get mobile emitter technology in the timeline with the Confederation? Because that only came from Voyager's missions in the Delta Quadrant, which didn't happen in that alternate timeline. Maybe they came across it some other way, or maybe it's just another continuity glitch that the writers didn't focus on. But it was nice to see Elnor, and along those lines, it was great to see that Raffi got to have some closure with Elnor. Even if it wasn't the real Elnor, it was still a hologram. As a side note, I do a lot of something very similar with clients who have lost people in their lives, whether it's kids who have lost parents or grandparents, spouses who lost another spouse. I will often have them do journal entries where they're actually writing to the person and talking about their day and talking about their feelings rather than just writing a generic journal entry about how they're feeling. So that way they can feel a little bit more connected to that person. So I'm glad that she got to have a little bit of that closure. Let's see, there was also a nice tie-in to a vet looking older in The Next Generation. At first, when I was watching the episode, I was like, wait a second, she hanged herself. She was a middle-aged woman. But in The Next Generation episode, season 1, where no one has gone before, we saw her in Picard's vision as an old woman sitting at the table with tea. So I was like, well, I said, please explain this, because this current generation of Star Trek writers don't always explain their canon glitches. And they actually did. Picard said that image that he saw was actually the way he would envision her had she had lived, and lived a happier life. So I'm glad they at least explained that issue there. So with the dislike, so I already talked about it being another filler episode, which got under my skin, another return to violence. The emergency combat hologram. Really? You're telling me that this ship scans every single person who comes on board the ship and also scans their brains to get a neurological profile that says they can create an exact holographic duplicate on board this ship? I'm sorry, that just comes off to me as bullshit. I mean, it's a neat concept, but it's just convenient. They just happen to have that on board. I just thought it was a odd, strange situation. The whole thing with Yvette killing herself, who didn't think that was going to happen at some point during this season as the time went on with her mental illness? I'm hoping that this is it for that whole thing with flashbacking to his mother and father and Chateau Picard. It takes away from the story, in my opinion. I mean, it adds depth to the Picard character and helps us to understand some of the issues he's had with connections and love in the past. But I just didn't find the whole Yvette thing very, very interesting. I just thought it was a waste of time and more filler to fill into the episodes. I'll be glad that it's over. Let's see. Also, what I didn't like was 7 and 9 getting back her exact same implants. That makes absolutely no sense in this episode. If they have the nanoprobes and she's being repaired by the Queen, you would think that things would randomly pop out everywhere. But the exact same areas, the exact same implants that she had since she was rescued from the Collective on Voyager, those exact ones came back? Please. That's stupid and that's ridiculous. They probably just did that as a way to explain her getting her implants back whenever they go back to their normal time. I just assumed that she would get her implants back one way or another. After everything, things would be restored. But hey, whatever. But I just thought it was sloppy and it was ridiculous. Let's see. Questions. So all of these soldiers that the Queen had, every one of them agreed to be assimilated. Somebody had actually brought that up on social media, that after they saw that first one being assimilated, wouldn't they have gone running out of fear? But these were the spearhead operation soldiers that I guess Sung was working on with genetic modifications or genetic testing we heard earlier in the season. So maybe when they saw that, maybe they weren't frightened. Maybe they thought, wonderful, this is a way to actually get ourselves enhanced, and they went along with it. Unfortunately, they all got killed and mowed down, but I mean, it was an interesting question. Would they have really volunteered for that kind of service? But maybe if they were genetically experimented on at a different time. Is this Elnor going to replace the original one? I mean, the reality is we basically got an exact duplicate of Elnor. This is basically Picard in reverse. We got Picard now in his memories and everything in a humanoid android body. Now we have Elnor and his neural patterns in a hologram, and he also has a mobile emitter. So is this Elnor going to go back with them? That being said, with the ship being taken, where is Elnor? Did Elnor come with them? I don't know if I missed him at the end of the episode or not, but is he going to be back with them? Because I didn't see him anywhere. How's the crew going to get back home now that La Sirena has been taken by the Queen? I mean, this was not even mentioned. They just decided, okay, a life for a ship is how it went down. And so 7 of 9, she got healed, and the Queen said, I want the ship in return for this healing. So they just, okay, yeah, go ahead, start your new Borg collective, take La Sirena, we just give it to her. And they basically said that to Picard in the last shot of the episode. Oh, we gave her La Sirena. How in the hell were they supposed to get home? That was the way they got there. Didn't that go through the writers' minds here? We're giving away the only way to get home. It's like they didn't think about it. It was just like, okay, let's just focus on Renee, and we'll focus on the other part later. That was just really stupid and really bizarre and sloppy writing, in my opinion. How is Sung going to try to stop the Europa mission? La Sirena is now gone. The Queen, unless somehow the Queen and Jurati again fight back and forth and talk about trying to destroy the Europa ship in the final episode. I don't know. But how is Sung going to make this happen at this point? Because as of now, Jurati and the Borg Queen and La Sirena are gone. At the end of the episode, they warped away. So basically, in my opinion, they're gone and may not be back. And the last question is, who are the 2 Renees? We already know who the one Renee is because we've seen her in the last couple of episodes. She's the one who has to go on the Europa mission and find that virus or whatever life form on Io. Who's the other Renee? That kind of didn't make any sense to me. Who's that supposed to be? So, like I said, I thought the episode was fun. It had a lot of bullshit moments. I think it's starting to get to the point where they stretched the story out enough that things were starting to not make sense, and they were just kind of creating stuff as they went along. The whole thing with them sending away La Sirena is ridiculous. And even the Borg Queen. The Borg Queen was part of that whole situation. Now she's gone too. So again, how are they going to get back? Is Q going to miraculously get his powers back? I don't know. But I think they should not have wasted this episode on them hiding and seeking through the house. They should have launched the Europa mission. There should have been some sort of issue that came up that expedite it and get them going, that it was an urgent mission that they needed to save Renee. But they didn't do that, and I guess it is what it is. So we'll find out in 2 days. As of this recording, 2 days from now is the season finale of Season 2 of Star Trek Picard. So that's it for my review of Episode 9, Hide and Seek, of Season 2 of Picard. If you'd like to leave some comments, please leave comments below. You can follow the show here on YouTube. Just type in Pittsburgh's Trek Chat in the search engine, and it'll take you directly to my channel. You can follow the show on Facebook, facebook.com/Pittsburgh's Trek Chat. You can also follow the show on Twitter at PGH Trek Chat. I'm looking forward to the next episode. Until then, may you live long and prosper.